Hey, I hope you're safe and well wherever you're holed up right now, whatever you're kind of having to deal with personally during this time of, well, I guess global crisis that we're all, connected to and sharing right now. My name's Andy Moore. Among other things, I kind of write and perform songs. I spend part of my time as an undertaker. I run a creative online community for introverted and highly sensitive people, and I present the Gentle Rebel podcast. And I just wanted to kind of, I guess, record a few videos basically to kind of check in with you and really step back and connect myself within a spirit of simplicity, really. Because I kind of realised that I don't often stop to introduce myself and explain what I'm trying to do here, what I'm doing here with my website, with my podcast, with my Haven community and that kind of stuff. And it's really easy to get caught up in the assumption that that viewers and readers and listeners know all that stuff and that we're all on the same page. But the truth is, like, even I don't know that stuff. I mean, like, who am I? What am I doing? So it's kind of good. It's helpful to check in and have a think about that occasionally, just in order to make sure that, I guess, what I'm doing still has a purpose, still has some sense of value, as opposed to just being, more noise in an already, I think you'll agree, noisy enough world. So, yeah, I guess this moment in time, the stuff we're dealing with as a planet right now, it's all just kind of encouraged me to stop, to go inwards and to ask some fundamental questions again. And I thought I'd share some of that with you through a series of 3 videos. So I started this year back in January. Do you remember January? Feels like a couple of decades ago now. And back then I began it with I guess the best of intentions. I was like committing to engage with it in a spirit of simplicity, creative play, and reconnection to things that matter most. I noticed a lot of my friends were kind of sharing similar sentiments as well at the time. I guess that over recent years we've kind of got bogged down, haven't we, a little bit in all kinds of murky waters. Relationships have been strained, politics has been challenging to say the least, and everything's become really, really quite heavy. I didn't really know what a year of simplicity, creative play and reconnection would look like, but I was kind of up for just sort of, covering the year in that spirit. I really didn't know that we'd be confronted with such an overt catalyst now, the coronavirus, which actually would encourage space for, maybe even force, all 3 of these things to take root in some way. This has given many of us the opportunity to really grapple with some inner work, to ask some important questions about, I don't know, what really matters, I suppose, to us, and what we truly miss when we have a sense of kind of normality, the things that we take for granted taken away. A moment like this can be both freeing, can be liberating, but it can be terrifying and really anxiety-inducing at the same time. And I've been really fascinated to chat with people about the challenges and the possibilities that are both coming out through this. As I opened the doors to the Haven again at the start of April, I was feeling kind of compelled to realign myself with the heart of what I do in that and in a lot of the other stuff that I do as well, and just to kind of get a sense of why it matters to me, an act of reconnection, I suppose, if you will. And so I started reflecting on my own story, the significant moments through my life that seem to have brought me to this place. Aha moments of realization, of transformation. And I've also been thinking about, where we might be heading together over the coming weeks and months and years, in relationships, in communities, and in the world in general. The long-term change that this may bring to pass is obviously yet to be seen, but it does feel like we're in the middle of a significant moment, an opportunity, a possibility. So yeah, I thought I'd chat with you a bit about my vision for what I'm doing online, especially with regards to the Haven, and also just to encourage you, just to give you some encouragement, to share some ideas, to hopefully remind you that that wherever you are, whatever you might be struggling with right now, that you're not alone, and just to kind of, I guess, reconnect, to simplify, to go back into the basics of what we're all about here. A couple of weeks ago, I came across a comment on Instagram that kind of stopped me in my tracks. I'd been a part of a free giveaway that Alice Southern from the Introvert Library had organised. And so there's a bunch of us giving some free stuff away, and she shared an image with information about the thing that I was giving away on Instagram. And under this image there was this comment that said, "Well, that was very odd. I went to school with Andy Mort and never expected to see him in my Instagram feed." Oh man, cue the feeling of, oh dear, oh crap. You know, people I know in real life are seeing me in this alternate reality. No, this shouldn't happen. You know, worlds shouldn't be colliding like that. And so trigger a swell of imposter feelings and a weird sense of like, I don't know, shame. You know, a disconnect between, I suppose, who I was all those years ago at school and, you know, what I'm up to now and all this stuff. It was this like, oh no, don't look at me. And I really can't explain it. It was a really weird feeling. It's quite odd. But I guess there's a strange thing looking back to those days, which all of us probably feel to some degree. You know, who we were back then, you know, in our younger years. It's not who we are now, but who we are now is the result of the who we were thens that keep going through life. You know, and that was a time before I knew what it meant to be an introvert. I hadn't had that profound aha moment that told me that I wasn't weird or different, and certainly wasn't as weird or different as I feared, you know. And school wasn't too bad for me. You know, like most of my life, I just sort of took it in my stride. I got what needed to be done, and I guess just slotted into the background as I was going along. No major dramas. I was fairly adept at not looking completely out of place in any different social groups. So the chameleon, so to speak. But I never felt at home. You know, I never experienced a sense of real belonging anywhere. You know, the place I felt most at peace was pretty much on my own, playing and creating and dreaming and doing stuff that I used to enjoy doing. I guess I tolerated a lot of situations, so to speak, and tried hard to acquire the tastes of other people. I really wanted to enjoy the things that other people liked, but much of the time I just didn't click with many things that other people cared about. I didn't seem to share the ambitions that others had. As hard as I tried, you know, to have those things, I didn't value things that others saw as really important, and in many ways didn't really enjoy doing the things that a lot of people seem to go mad for. And there was a weird, again, sense of shame about that. And I became even better at fitting in, I suppose, looking the part, knowing what was needed to appease the expectations and the norms of particular groups. But this fitting in, I suppose, came at a cost. And I guess I lost connection with the things that did matter to me in certain contexts. You know, I held things back. I became a pretty effective chameleon. I'd given over to people pleasing, to allowing people who seemed to have life figured out, for them to lead the way and for me to follow. And I was kind of satisfied with that. It wasn't that I didn't speak up when I wanted something, or that I kind of deliberately chose to ignore pursuing things that I deep down desired. It was literally that I just fitted in, just sort of went along with the flow. Most of the time I just had no clue what I wanted. And it wasn't until I read a blog post called 10 Myths About Introverts by Carl King in 2010 that something began to click. When I first read it, I did so with an open mouth and a sense of like real validation. You know, almost every point was like a mirror on the tension between how I felt seen by the world and how I came to realise I had felt inside all those years growing up, I guess. And in this, I've exchanged the word introverts for the word you, because it feels somehow more personal and meaningful. And so I'll go through the list of 10 myths about introverts, this article that really changed my life. I'll go through it quickly, and I'll read it as 10 myths about you, rather than 10 myths about introverts, just in case this is something that you need reminding of right now. It's something that I find really helpful. So myth 1, you don't like to talk. Originally it was introverts don't like to talk. Hopefully you get my point as I go along. If someone gets you talking about something you're interested in, you could talk for days. Myth 2, you are shy. You're not necessarily afraid of people. What you need is a reason to interact. You tend not to interact for the sake of interacting. Myth 3, you are rude. You would love people to be real and honest. Unfortunately, this is not acceptable in most settings, so you feel a lot of pressure to fit in, which you can find exhausting. Myth 4, you don't like people. If someone is lucky enough for you to consider them a friend, they probably have a loyal ally for life. Once they've earned your respect as being a person of substance, they're all in. The 5th myth, you don't like to go out in public. Nonsense. You just don't like to go out in public for as long. You're usually ready to go home, to recharge, and to process it all. In fact, this kind of recharging is absolutely crucial for you. Myth 6, you always want to be alone. You're perfectly comfortable with your own thoughts. You think a lot. You daydream. But you can get lonely if you don't have anyone to share your thoughts and your discoveries with. You may crave an authentic and a sincere connection with one person at a time. Myth 7, you're weird. You think for yourself, and because of that, you might challenge certain accepted norms and expected ways of doing things. You tend not to make the majority of your decisions based on what is popular or trendy. Myth 8, you're an aloof nerd. It's not that you're incapable of paying attention to what's going on around you, it's just that your inner world can be much more stimulating and rewarding to you, and you can get lost in it for periods of time. Myth 9, you don't know how to relax and have fun. You may typically relax at home or in kind of low stimulating environments rather than busy places and crowds. You've got different dominant neuro pathways to extroverts. That's how it is. Myth 10, you can fix yourself and become an extrovert. A world without introverts would be a world with few scientists, musicians, artists, poets, filmmakers, doctors, mathematicians, writers, and philosophers. You cannot fix yourself as an introvert, and you deserve respect for your natural temperament and the amazing gift and contribution that you and other introverts constantly and consistently make to the human race, despite the fact that you don't always feel valued. You don't always feel like you fit in for who you naturally are. I really love that. Just a simple reminder worth dipping into from time to time. Perhaps it has a close place to my heart because it really was the source of my big aha moment. It was the source of that thing of like the first time I heard the word introvert and saw myself within it. Without wanting to sound too dramatic, it genuinely changed my life. Suddenly I had a piece of a jigsaw that I kind of knew was missing but didn't realise actually existed. I never knew there was a difference between people in this way, in that sort of fundamental temperament sort of sense. Because the Western world swims in this spirit of extroverted values, and the gifts of introversion were never encouraged, never celebrated. Quietness in school was seen as a weakness rather than a source of, reflection and thoughtfulness. Being happy in your own company was seen as, potentially a cause of concern. Like this kid doesn't mix so well, always wanting to be, on their own. Preferring to stay at home at the weekend pointed to like potentially absurd antisocial tendencies. Be worried about him. Questioning the wisdom of a crowd was a show of arrogance and bloody-mindedness, stubbornness. The phrase, just relax and enjoy yourself, that'd be used as a way to tell someone to be more outgoing, to just let your hair down, do what everybody else is doing, stop being so uptight, that kind of thing. It didn't mean go home, pour a glass of wine and read a book, even if that is what you do to just relax and enjoy yourself. And so, after reading the article, I began to notice a lot of messages like this, and we see them everywhere. You know, they underpin what Susan Cain came to describe as the extrovert ideal. You know, the common assumptions and normalized, accepted social values and etiquette and stuff that we've come to, I guess, see as the appropriate way to be, the right way to exist socially and that kind of stuff. And I guess at its heart, it was the spirit of this extrovert ideal that's created that sense that, you know, I'm missing something. I can't keep up with these demands, this pace, this lack of breathing space that I think I really need. And it feels like I'm broken in some way. You know, I need this time to myself to delve into the things that I really enjoy doing. And shock horror, I quite enjoy spending time on my own. The truth was, I could find what mattered to me. I just needed to wade through a lot of noise and many stories that I'd told myself about myself. I'd told myself about the way that I needed to be and all that sort of stuff in order to fit in. And then a whole bunch more stuff that I needed to process in order to give myself permission to actually feel okay about who I was at that natural level. And this stuff I came to see, I suppose, is about more than simply the stuff we might like. But it's about a fundamental underlying way that we interact with and show up in the world. You know, I need time to reflect and to process. I need margin to create the best stuff that I can create. And I need space away from noise, away from people, away from distractions if I'm going to do this in a way that actually suits me, and a way that satisfies me and makes me feel good about you know, what I'm doing. Over the years, I've spoken to and worked with thousands of people who've had their own aha moment like this, realizing that it's not them that's weird. It's just they've never been properly allowed to quietly orientate themselves on the backdrop of what Susan Cain describes as a world that can't stop talking. You know, they've never found that sense of peace within that context. And the great news that I was beginning to discover was that I wasn't alone in feeling out of place. And neither are you. You know, you may well know this. And in the next video, I'm going to jump into the story of what this the particular aha moment started to make possible, started to bring alive in me. So I look forward to seeing you soon for that one. Have you had an aha moment yourself? I'd absolutely love to hear about it, either in the comments below or send me an email. I read and respond to everything that comes my way. So yeah, please do that. Speak to you soon. Let's see you for the next video in a few days' time. All right. Goodbye.